It's always a bit of a pleasure for a British marine journalist to investigate a new Princess yacht at an international boating exhibition. And here at the Cannes Yachting Festival, the latest addition to the Princess fleet is this, the Princess Y80. Now I'll make my way onto the swim platform at the starboard side and we'll pop straight up into the cockpit because there's plenty to talk about up there, but as we do so it's worth noticing that we've got aft access to the crew cabins there, plus a nice little seat to face aft. This is quite a distinctive element of the Y-class package. There's also a passerelle comes out of this top step, and you'll notice as we go up that this is all natural teak here, unvarnished, so it looks and feels fantastic. Now what we see here is optional. This is the Infinity cockpit. The standard package comes with basic U-shaped seating, quite a traditional layout. This uses a curved glass balustrade and fore and aft seating with a table in the middle, which means you can keep those views aft wide open. But at the same time, the flybridge comes a good way aft, so if you want to come out here and relax in the morning, you get good shelter from above. Now let's make our way directly forward to the bow deck and see what we got up there. It's worth noticing again that this is the oval stainless steel guardrails, again a distinctive element of the Y-class package. And what we have here as we make our way forward is a pair of doors. The skipper's door there is open, that leads directly in to the lower helm. And here we have an additional door that leads in to the galley. So the idea is you can close both off, the helm and the galley, and then the crew can use a private route out through this door, back in through that one, without disturbing the occupants. Now this particular boat is not especially well set up for a crew because the galley and the lower helm are both open, as you'll see when we go inside. It's quite an unusual choice given that this is actually a charter boat. This is also quite unusual for Princess. What we have here is a U-shaped seating area that faces back towards that aft bench. And that's a really convivial zone, really enjoyably sociable zone. I'll say that quite a lot as we make our way around this boat because very few boats of this style and size seem to me to offer you quite as much in the way of sociable gathering areas. It's really quite impressive. We have drinks holders here, of course. We have another unvarnished teak table in the centre. You can spec this with an optional infill, so you can turn this entire thing into a sunbed if you miss that element of the foredeck experience. But here, between the seats, we also have a locker, and you can spec this as a little cooler, so you can keep your drinks in here, so you don't have to head aft to pick up fresh ones. Now, let's make our way back down the port side, and as we do so, again, as on the X80 that we looked at earlier this year, there are big lockers here, so you can slot all sorts in there, all sorts of seamanship gear. The space goes right across to the other side. And we'll take a step down and carry on aft. Another step down. The steelwork again is absolutely beautiful, as you tend to expect from Princess, particularly in the Y-class. The moment you step into this saloon, it's actually a little bit reminiscent of the X80 in that light floods directly through, unchecked from the screen, right forward. Nothing to block it at all. We've also got this lovely, deep, plunging window on the port side, directly next to the dining station, exactly where you'd want it for fantastic views. And while we're here, let's just bend down and have a look at this dining table because it's on runners, as you can see, which means that at the press of a button, you can either shift this over to the port side, get it out of the way, shift the chairs, so you can open up this floor even more, or you can slide it out for a proper dinner party with more space for the guys over there. So it's quite versatile. Now I'll shift straight back again because I don't want to miss out too much of this boat as I go through. We've got an L-shaped settee on the port side with a coffee table, but as you'd expect, even that has curves. And we see these lovely swept curves more clearly on the starboard side, where this settee wraps around with this beautiful wood panelling behind it. That's walnut, I think. And we have these lovely details built into that settee. It's a very pretty thing indeed. There's also a TV that comes out of here to face the people further aft. And that's not the perfect solution, of course, because people will tend to sit there. That said, further aft on the starboard side, we do have a neat little bar, which I like very much. Now, I think we have a selection of drawers, including, yeah, place for your glasses in there. And there we are. We also have a little space for your crockery, though I think that this can actually be spec'd as an ice maker. And behind that, a fridge. There we are. So you really don't have to go far for your drinks. Heading further forward, this galley itself is rather a treat. And I think it's beautifully positioned right at the hub of the boat. Now, I've spoken to the guys at Princess about the principle behind this, and they seem to think that people want the galley to be the hub of the social lives. Certainly that's the way they tend to operate at home, and they want to give people that same order of experience on board a boat. So it sits just ahead of the big lounge aft and just across from the dining station there. And of course, if you don't intend to have crew on board, then leaving it open like this is wonderful. But as I say, you can close that right off. So if you have crew, they can nip out onto that starboard side deck, head forward, and then nip back in through this door to the helm station without interrupting you. While we're up here, it's worth a little look here too. We've got a proper day heads here with a huge window. Obviously that's darkly tinted for privacy, and a vast mirror here. It's a very comfortable day heads indeed, and it occupies a really good footprint. And of course the benefit of that is that it frees up all the ensuite bathrooms down below to be entirely private. Now, as mentioned, you can shut off this helm entirely. Let's move forward and face aft so I'm not blinding everybody with that sunlight. You can shut off this helm entirely, and that would involve a bulkhead that comes from here, just ahead of the day heads, across to here. But for my money, again, even if I had crew, I wouldn't shut off that part of the boat because it just impedes the light. And the way the light is managed on this main deck is absolutely beautiful. What I really like about this helm though is the fact that directly across from you we have this companion seating. As I say, this is a tremendously sociable boat, and for my money this little spot here in the corner is absolutely perfect to nestle in there with a cup of tea in the morning and a newspaper. And you can face across to the guys at the helm, keep them company, or you can look aft and see the entire main deck roll out beneath you. Now let's nip down below. This is not going to come as a great surprise to many of you, I don't think, because the lower deck is exactly the same as the lower deck on the X80 that we took a look at earlier this year. The stairwell is very similar too, so it's wide open and light absolutely floods down that shaft and fills this central atrium with natural light, which is very pleasant indeed. As on the X80 then, we have a full beam owner's cabin aft, and that occupies a really good footprint. Lots of light, lots of space, a nice big dressing table on the port side, a huge central bed running fore and aft, a chaise longue on the starboard side. And I'm delighted to say, having discovered that these drawers seem to impact on the chaise longue and it would restrict their travel on the X80, well, somehow somebody's attended to that, because though it gets close, it does open properly. So well done, Princess. If I move aft, you can see we've got a nice big TV recessed into that wall, nice and flush. And if I spin around, further aft on the starboard side, we've got an enormous transverse ensuite with twin sinks. I'm going to talk about these again because it's absolutely delightful. It's such a tactile part of the boat. It's lovely, it looks great, it feels great, it works well. And a good size of shower with a rain shower up above. And the toilet just over by the window there. And let's move round to the port side, because we've got a huge walk-in wardrobe here. Plenty of drawer space, a big mirror to the side Lots of hanging space up above as well, and lots of shelving plus a safe back behind there. As on that X80, we've got this lovely kind of fabric on the doors and some of the bulkheads, which kind of softens the feel of the boat. But round about the handle, we've got a nice hard wipe clean surface. Pretty details everywhere you look. We'll make our way forward. Now here on this boat, this is storage, but you can spec that as a washer dryer, so you don't have to give your washing to the crew should you require them. We've also got a little cabinet here. And once again, this walnut detailing is delightful, really picks out the light. Moving forward, we have the VIP cabin, of course, up in the bow, and we have a twin cabin on the port side and a double cabin on the starboard side. So we'll nip in here. Again, the elements are all there. The design motifs, a nice big bed, walnut finish, a little dresser behind the door there, and a good size of transverse ensuite with a big separate shower and a rain shower up above. Moving over to the port side, the twin cabin again is a very attractive place to be. Not huge, but you've got good hanging storage in here, which you don't necessarily expect on what is ostensibly the least glamorous of the 4 cabins on board. And in principle, these beds can be moved together, but that's an option which we don't have on this particular boat. Again, a transverse ensuite further forward, slightly smaller, but still a very decent size, and still with a rain shower. And up in the bow, up a couple of steps, a really big raised island bed with good storage down below. Nice and deep for your linens, your towels, your pillows, your bits and bobs. Again, a little dressing area on the port side, hanging storage on both sides, a TV recessed into this aft bulkhead. And what I really like, and what I really liked on the X80, is the low-level storage, which really frees up this part of the boat, so it feels much more open, much brighter. Bigger views, more light. It's very effective indeed. Now let's leave the lower deck alone. We have seen it before on other boats. And let's pop straight up to the flybridge. As we do so, it's worth noting we've got huge storage in here, halfway up these stairs. Really big. You can fit lots of bulky gear down there, suitcases and so on, just chuck them in. And the access to the flybridge is in the traditional fashion on the aft deck, from the aft cockpit on the starboard side. It's a nice relaxed gradient of step and it feels very safe. We've got big guardrails, nice ambient lighting as you go up. And while the rest of the boat does feel pretty sociable, I think this is the best of it. Now what we have here is a wet bar. It kind of orbits you as you stand behind it, and of course you can have fridges and ice makers and all sorts of stuff here, plus your sink, and I think we've got an electric griddle under here. Yeah, you can have 2 of those if you want. And further forward, if the lower helm is sociable, this takes it to a new level. 2 helm seats bang in the centre, fully featured helm. And we don't just have companion seating on one side, we have it on both sides. That I think is borrowed from the Y85, and it's a fantastic feature, really good. If you're crewing the boat yourself, you'd be delighted to have your friends and family up there enjoying the ride with you. Further aft, we've got a built-in dining table beneath this big hardtop, and after that, a really enormous sunbathing unit. Now as things stand, there's storage in the back end of here, but you can spec this with a hidden crane big enough to lift 500 kilos, I think, so you can have your tender back here up to around about 4 meters. But it's quite attractive with freestanding furniture, and again, particularly so because we have that big glass balustrade there. You can also spec this actually as a hot tub, or what Princess prefers to call a spa bath. And the hardtop is also quite interesting. And oddly enough, to tell you about that, I'm just going to head back down and round to the foredeck, because we have another couple of Y-class boats sitting alongside this one. And from the lower level, we can see what kind of options you have for it. Now, what we have up there seems to me to be the most basic option. But if we look up to the side there, I'll get a little closer just to give you a better vantage point. You can have glazing inserts, as on this model here, or you can have the louvered version, which seems to me to deliver the best of all things. The kind of shade you want, or the kind of sun you want, and everything in between. Before we wrap it up here though, we need to head aft and take a look at those crew cabins and at the engine room. Particularly because after our review of the X80, there was a little bit of disapproval online because we hadn't popped down there and taken a look. Well, actually we had. We just hadn't included it in the final cut. So here we go. As I say, a nice aft facing bench here for a couple of people. And then easy access on the starboard side. Now, this is of course an 80-foot boat, there or thereabouts. So you only realistically need 2 or 3 crew at most, I would think. But here, there are plenty of options. Now what we have here is a couple of beds on the port side, and if I look to the starboard side, there's a single bed in there. So that's beds for 3 with lots of storage, and further forward, a shared bathroom with separate shower. You can though, if you want, turn that into a bunk, so this is capable of accommodating 3 people, and turn this into a bunk too, so you can accommodate 5. It's more about principle than practice in reality, as I say, because 2 or 3 is all you really need. And there's space back here as well for a dinette, which I'm sure most crew members would appreciate. Now let's make our way into the engine room. Again, as you'd expect, there's plenty of space in here. It's very well organised. We have a pair of MAN V12 1900s. That should be good for around about 34 knots apparently. It can also come with 1800s or 2000s. So in excess of 35 knots is a very realistic possibility. And there's space here for a water maker. We have the hydraulics. We've got a couple of generators, one on either side there. And of course, as you'd expect from Princess, these engines are operating through straight shafts. And it will always be that way, I would have thought. That then is the new Princess Y80, and I have to say it's a boat I really like. It's got all the style and the elegance and the calibre of finish you tend to expect from the Y-class boats, but it adds a degree of open style living and of sophistication in terms of its management of the light, both natural and artificial, that makes each area of this boat feel really quite enjoyable. Now, there's of course nothing controversial about the styling, and nor is there anything particularly radical about the design solutions, but I have no doubt that this is going to be one of the strongest boats in the Princess fleet.